All right, this originally was taken from Jarvis Kwan. Actually, the last two classes were done from Jarvis Kwan, who back in 2007 developed a
Mm-hmm.
curriculum that he said was modeled after the physician's curriculum. They had 10 classes that did a
Okay.
roundabout of all the different aspects of being a physician, and he thought the scribes needed it and came up with this. So several of these are his, several of them are other people's. Um, and that's why a lot of the outline and what I'm using comes from Jarvis.
Okay.
It's because he got it. And to be honest, that outline was used at least to 2016. Goring Chemist
Okay.
started using this exact same material. They just didn't tell anybody, and then they copyrighted and told everybody don't take it, although Jarvis set it up. All right,
Mm-hmm.
class is going to be done in two parts. I'm only going to teach the
Okay.
first part. The second part is on taking applications. There was a presumption that, I'm going to change that right now, that scribes would be involved with setting cities up and in many cases doing the application process. So this class used to be done in two parts. One was on the meaning of the homestone itself and how to do the thing itself. And then they went into looking at people's applications that do apply. Because, of course, if they're doing the homestone, they're really applying to be new citizens. And so those
Right.
two were tied together. But in many cases today, the owner, let's just say that the scribes aren't usually the ones. We keep the forms, but not the ones that do the actual that part of it. We don't reject people based on their applications, basically. Honestly, I'm not. Anyway, I'm not going into the philosophical side of that. Anyway,
Okay.
ignore. Why does it say that? Oh, I accidentally touched something. All right, we're going to touch what it means. Then I'm going to switch to practical aspects of the citizenship process, application process. Once in a while, a scribe will get lucky and be involved in setting up that side of it. It all depends. We have too many people that think they're scribes these days, and they're trying to take work away from us. Um, all right. At the very least, a cast member should go and record the ceremony and file it. Uh, that is for new citizens. Usually, what I do is I take them up, I do the thing, I pull out the form, fill it out, have them sign it on the spot, and then I file it. So
Okay.
I literally record it. I mean, I do it. You don't record the whole set. Now, in a group setting, I'll take that back. When I was in Thermos, we had quite a few people at one time doing it. So in that group setting, I would do like if you had like 9 people, I'd record it so I could go back and get all the names, mm. just so I wouldn't find myself going, "Who was there?" and
Right.
screwing up the darn thing. Normally, it'd be like 2 people, and you don't have that problem. So it isn't necessary to record it. What city had
Exactly.
what city had no homestone? There's one city in the books that had no homestone.
Was it Tharna maybe?
It's Port Carr. However, it
Oh,
got one. It started out with no homestone, but it ended up
okay.
getting one. And I need to record this. I mean, give this to you so you can read with me. There's a quote I'm going to give you. It describes how they got it, and it's illustrative of what Charles said. This. Whoops. Charles said this. Go outside, I told him, and find a rock and bring it to me. He looked at me. Hurry, I said. Hard up. I turned about and ran from the room. He waited quietly, not speaking, till I waited quietly until he returned. He held out his hand, a
Right.
sizable rock, somewhat bigger than my fist. It was a common rock, that part's important. Not very large, gray, heavy, granular in texture. A knife carved the initials into the rock. Every homestone has initials carved in of the city. Then he said quietly, "This is the homestone of Parkar." Though it tells us it could be a plain stone, not jeweled, just a plain rock, and that initials are carved in it. Now the part. Suddenly the room was filled with cheers, more like 100 weapons. Left their shields, saluted the homestone of Porcar. All it was is a rock with initials. I saw weathered
Mhm.
seamen whip and cry out, banishing their swords. There was joy in the room, such as never been seen before. There was such a belonging and victory and meaningfulness and cries and the clashing of weapons and tears and instant love. So That tells you more about what's going on than anything before this. So, what is a homestone? It's a whole lot more than a rock. Okay, it is a yeah. Now it's working. It's a it basically is a symbol of who they were, its identity. So the rock is like, well, in America we say the American flag or the French flag. It's a representation of who they were. So when you say allegiance to the homestone, you're kind of doing like what you do when you say allegiance to whatever national flag you have. The flag itself doesn't matter as much as the meaning behind it.
Right.
Same way when we stand for the pledge to the homestones mentioned, it's the same way. No one
Yeah.
sets in when the flag is being saluted. Same idea. Community is everything in Gore. It's defined not by any rock, by allegiance to the homestone and what it means. Now, there's actually, it doesn't show up in these notes. I have it in another one. You can have multiple homestones. Every home has a homestone. Every community has a homestone. Within a city, certain
Right.
subsections have a homestone. So, weirdly enough, it's where your home is where your heart is, the best way to put it.
Yes.
Okay? As soon as the home is declared, you already know about the man. And we're going to discuss that further down. Get rid of that. There we go. Quote. Yeah, and I'm going to pull this down. So take the quote. Free people come from the conception of a child between a free man and free woman. They may be born with the belly of a slave. My theory and law. Okay, in most cities, women must be free until the child is born for a child to be considered free as well. So that's if the woman's free, the child's born free. Boys, as a portion of the homestone ceremony, swear an oath of mastery to never surrender the dominance as rightly theirs by nature. Okay, so even from the beginning,
Yes.
there's they. Now I have to. Now wait, because really people don't. Being honest with myself. Homestone allegiance includes a special part to deal with the part spoken by the boys they make an oath in Tharna. If a man says from Tharna, you will pay particular attention to not giving up male dominance as one example. Tharna had a battle. If you haven't read the books, it's where there are three periods in Tharna. And there was a period where men ruled, there was a period where women took over. And then at the end of the book about Tharna, men took over the rightful dominance. But the part where Second Life plays it is actually in the middle of the books where women were in charge. That is not how it ends.
Okay.
Men retake their dominance. And in fact, the part where women rule is described as bleak. People were depressed. They didn't wear their caste colors. I mean, it was not a happy time.
Right.
Okay, so when men retook it, the fairs returned, the people wore their colors, the city got their joy back. So Tharna, as in the books, I mean, in the books, is the Tharna in Second Life Gore is a part of Tharna, but that's not really what Tharna was about. Those who argue with somebody over there, I said, that's not really. All right. Uh, the stones themselves are not likely to be jewel encrusted. I've been in cities where they go crazy on that. They were simpler, smaller. You can actually Taro Cabot put it in his backpack. It was so small. Now, the city defines the man. I made that comment earlier. There are three cities. I give an example one. For instance, if somebody says they're from Karoba, then you're probably into arts and poetry and painting. Okay,
Right.
that's where all that's done. Where I live in Selnar, it's military. There's got to be at least 20 warriors there. The whole city, it's probably the most warrior city I've ever seen. If you're living in
Mhm.
Tharna, you're probably a woman who likes being in charge. And if you're a male, you don't have a problem submitting to females. It tells you a lot about the man the second he says sitting in Tharna. So the city
Yeah.
defines the man. Um, Usually they lived and died where they were born. People did not get pissed off and leave because some slave refused to kneel or something like that. That is the stuff we do where we flip cities really quick because somebody does something you don't like. That's not really Gorian. And what's funny as hell, people say, well, I'm role playing Gorian or Gore. No, they're not, because they're really not doing it the way Gore is defined by the person who wrote what Gore is. So if you're going to role play,
Mm-hmm.
follow the rules of the game and role play the game, not
Right.
some Two Towers version of it, or some other version role play that you bring in all the rules from there and say, oh, I'm playing. No, you're not, because Gore doesn't play that way. All right, for the Gordon, he seldom speaks of such things. The city is more than brick and mortar, cylinders and bridges. Okay, it's not simply a place, a geographical location, a collection of structures that make it conveniently. Here, let me give the rest of this quote. There we go. The Gorean census believes that a city cannot be simply defined with its material elements which undergo the transformation. For them, a city is a living thing. More than a living thing, it has an entity with a history as stones and rivers do not have a history. It's an entity with a tradition, customs, practice, characters, hopes. When he says his R, Karobi is doing a great deal more than forming his place of residence. Now, this part's
Okay.
important. It is not role played enough. When a city's destroyed, it can be rebuilt if the homestone is safe. That is not role played enough in Gore, because all these people keep rebuilding cities, and what they don't do is talk about finding the homestone or reestablishing it. Again, they're kind of ignoring what Gore is. The minute
Yes.
the minute Karoba, he knew when their city, this is a quote, knew the cities destroyed by the pre-kings had been destroyed and had been scattered to the ends of Gore. But when permitted by the priest-kings, he returned to the city to rebuild it, each bearing a stone to add to his walls. It is said that in times of trouble, if the homestone had not been lost, even Curus of the caste of assassins knew a city cannot die when its homestone survives. So
Yeah.
basically, Karoba was a city that was destroyed and came back, but his homestone was still alive. So that's what a
Okay.
homestone is. Homestone ceremony. I have gone to war with this. I'm doing it differently than what is done in most cities. I gave you 4 examples, I believe 4, of the homestone ceremony. Now, I'll tell you now why I have a problem with it. Let's go through the quotes, and then that'll be the end of it. So like I said, I know I can get this done before the meeting. According to the description in the books, there'll be a presentation of city leadership, usually with a sponsor. This is for one to use that basically, if you grew up in the city, you had to pass the
Okay.
test and have a sponsor. You just didn't take it because you belonged to the city. It was presumed that not all would be let in. So basically, they had to take a test, they had to have a sponsor. So it wasn't just, of course you belong here. You were raised here. No. The leader of the city would offer new citizens bread, fire, and salt. This is the key words, and I'm going to show it to you in a couple of places. Bread, fire, and salt are the only 3 items found for the homestone ceremony. There's no wine, no water, no knife. They swear allegiance to the homestone. They'd be followed by some physical act that demonstrates a fidelity, like kissing the homestone. Warrior sliding, men slicing open and women slicing open their hand and dripping blood, not in the books. That's an onlineism, I believe, developed by the warriors. You won't find it anywhere. I'm surprised to hear such sentiments, he said, from those who must have held and kissed the homestone of Ar. That's a reference to the citizenship ceremony, which following the oath of allegiance involves a small touching of the city's homestone. This may be the only time in the life of the citizen where they actually touch the homestone. We have people doing ceremonies all over Gore where they don't touch the homestone. What they do is they
Right.
drip blood on it. And yet in this one, they say the homestone ceremony is the only time when they do get to touch it.
Right.
So that's a huge mistake in role play. Young men and women of the city, when coming of age, participate in a ceremony which involves the swearing of oaths, the sharing of bread, which oddly enough, most cultures on earth do that, fire, and salt. And salt, we know the importance of salt to most communities in the world. The ceremony is led by young persons and kissed. Slave goes a gore.
Okay.
So now the nature of the oath is going to vary from city to city. Like I said, the only thing I'm saying about it, three elements have to be there: the bread, the salt, and the fire. There's not a lot of description of what the hell's done with the fire. When I do mine, I have them throw the salt into the fire. But honestly, there isn't much description on that point. I just have them burn it into the fire as becoming a part of it. I shared my fire with you. The salt is really important. There is a passage where a man was mad because the salt was denied to him. And there was a whole discussion about they didn't share their salt. So that's a big deal. Now, I am going to skip this last part. It deals with the application of part. You may or may not ever have deal with this, so I'm
Yes.
not going to spend a lot of time on that. However, I am going to give you the notes because you may someday be asked to be involved with doing that part of it. Okay?
Okay.
And so I'm going to
Yes.
give you that in case you show up and it says, but I've got Port Park Harsh Homestone, Origin Jarvis Homestone Ceremony. But basically, like I said, the only problem I have with that is the knife cutting. Oh, by the way, in Gore, bread was either cut into 4 or 8 slices. We have the quotes on that.
Okay.
So if you want to emote cutting it into 8 slices, that's very Gorian. Yeah, I will. But anyway, that's it for that lesson. It's a short one. Let me put it in your notes, but it's an important one because you have